He's gonna pace the field? Yep. Love it. Get a good deep breath. Get ready to roll here.
Only about one thing tonight, getting the W's, so gotta be around the end to do that.
Get ready to roll tonight, boys. Let's go have some fun.
Don't get me any more fired up than I already am.
All the way to the checkered. You're fine. Nobody's gotta run. Checker time, baby! Really proud of you, man. Drove your butt off tonight. We had the best start here, bud.
Yeah, boys. Way to rebound. Great job.
Great job, bud. Really good job. Appreciate you hanging in there with us all weekend.
What a weekend. Good job. Thank you.
And welcome back to Racing in the Draft. My name is Mark. What's going on this wonderful Saturday evening after the O'Reilly Parts auto race from Phoenix, where Justin Allgaier came. I mean, he struggled all night long with his car and was able to get some fortunate cautions towards the end and had the freshest tires and was able to work his way to the front to get that win. But boy, man, my Draftkings really did not need that caution from LeVar Scott because it ended up causing the guys that I had running well all race to end up off pit cycle and without the fresh tires. So I went from being in first in a couple of lineups to getting close to my money back. But it's one of those, I've always said, if you can get close to getting your money back, it's a waiting game. You're just keep getting closer and closer, and you kind of end up being Sheldon Creed, and you get second enough times, the first finally comes around your way. But either way, we are back to Phoenix. Kind of feel like we just left Phoenix. We did 4 races ago. That's how quickly the turnaround is, even though it was, 5 months ago? November, December, January, February. 4 months and a little bit ago. So 4 races 4 months ago. Same thing. But we have a new Chevrolet body. We have the same softer tires that they raced here. And we've got 750 horsepower this time. And we had the Indy cars put down rubber on this track earlier. Now, the Xfinity cars pulled most of that rubber up and replaced it with the Xfinity rubber, which the Cup cars are used to doing and racing on. So it definitely made the Xfinity race first stage kind of interesting. They definitely had a lot more tire fall off than I think they were prepared for. But they made their adjustments and got everything working correctly. But tires will be an absolute issue. The horsepower seems to be really helping, at least in practice, for what I could tell by practice laps. And we'll dig into that. There's a couple of real interesting takes that I've kind of found that I think we might be able to find some leverage with this week. One in particular, and we'll get to him. He's kind of further down. He's a value pick. But we'll get to that, and I've got another value pick way at the bottom too. But yeah, so good to finally have lots of laps of practice to kind of get a real gauge on who might be quick, who might not be quick, who might have short run speed, who might have long run speed. And you also never know what they may have up their sleeves and what cards they were actually showing in the race. Either way, last week, the three-peat happened. First time we've ever started off the season with the same winner in 3 straight races. Tyler Reddick. Good for 23-11, good for Michael Jordan. I mean, honestly, it's good for the sport. It's put a lot of publicity and spotlight on the sport, and we definitely can use some distractions in our sports world. So, super happy for that. Super happy for Tyler Reddick. I've never been the biggest Tyler Reddick fan, but I'm still happy for Michael and Denny, and just overall the sport. We've had 3, I think, really, really good, compelling races, compelling storylines. It's been a good start to the season so far, and I can't wait to get into the traditional oval style races, which starts tomorrow. So I'm excited to get back to that and kind of some normal racing. I know these races can kind of draw out a little bit, but I'm excited to get back to it. But the optimal lineups, how did our predictions go from last week? Oh, I think it was her name was Joanne. Yeah, her sneaky pick didn't turn out so well with Todd Gillen. So we gave it a shot, and if anybody's got the sneaky pick, wants to put their neck out there for the sneaky pick this week, let me know about it. But the optimal lineups from Coda last week: Tyler Reddick, of course, started in first, finished in first, and led 58 of the 95 laps. Kyle Larson with a decent run. He's actually having a decent, quiet start to his season. Kyle Busch finishing in 12th. Good for Kyle, who ran well last year at Coda, so that wasn't too big of a surprise. Denny Hamlin, who self-proclaimed sucks at road course racing, ended up with a 10th place finish. Who saw that coming? Other than, I mean, he's actually not all that bad. Can you go full screen? Oh, I'm not full screen. Why is... Oh, I know what I did. Huh. Yeah, so I made a video last week. I didn't get it posted because I was doing whatever. Let me see if I can make that adjustment on the fly. Give me 1 second. Thanks for letting me know. I completely missed that. Hold on 1 second. I gotta remember how to do it. Let's see. Display. I want to go to transform. Edit. I think it was actually like 110. Somebody like seen the Jeopardy song or something. Do 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 do. Oh, I should have checked this before I started. Sorry about that. All right, that should get that one right. Yeah, I'll get the video posted that I made on Sunday when I did my picks, even though my picks didn't quite turn out as well as I wanted them to. At some point, I've been dealing with my auto Claudbot or my Claudbot. The computer I actually bought, I thought I was doing something completely wrong, and it ended up having an issue in its BIOS. So I ended up having to take it back and getting a new BIOS or a new computer. So I just started filling with that this morning, and hopefully I can have that up and running in the next couple weeks. I think that'll also be a big help. And I'm also going to try to get it to where it'll be on Discord and get the Discord set up. Okay, I think we're in better shape now. How's that look? Lost Profit, does that look better? Let me know in the chat if it does. While that was going on, had a great night betting O'Reilly. They offered $10 top 10 bets credit and crushed it. Nice. Good job. Joanne. No, don't be sorry about your Gillen pick. I mean, I actually didn't mind the Gillen pick. And that's how you differentiate from the field. What was... Let me see if I can find that real quick. I forgot to look to see what his ownership was. It had to have been single digits. Let's see, my history, 7 days. We'll just look at, we'll look at this one, and we'll go to export that. Contest standings. Todd Gilliland had ownership of 9.5%, so 9%. But that's how you differentiate. You know, it would have been even better to find somebody that was sub 5% is really what you're kind of looking for, and have that driver hit. That's the sneaky pick that you want. Yeah, sorry, but the pit crew didn't help me any when they dumped the car early in the race. Yeah, my lineup sucked due to 7 of the top 10 starting positions finishing towards the top. Yeah, it's I mean, road courses, it's tough to make up positions, and that's why it's you've got to make that choice. If you kind of look, once again, things kind of held true. We did have 2 drivers that started in the top 10, one being Tyler Reddick and the other one being Ty Gibbs. I wasn't super high on Ty Gibbs. Ty Gibbs was actually pretty. If actually that would have been one of the picks to take if you had taken it. Let me see if I can pull that back up real quick. Open. Oh, I closed it already. Oh well, but Ty Gibbs is probably in the single digits also, and if you had him, you would have been sitting really pretty. And then Denny Hamlin. I didn't expect Denny Hamlin to finish in the top 10. Yeah, it was just a tough week. And I mean, I think it was the Tyler Reddick. It's just so hard. I mean, first off, never happened before that we've had the same winner to start the season 3 weeks in a row. I don't think we see 4, but I'm also not going to bet the house on that either. Once we look at his practice laps and everything, this is not one of his better tracks, but they have been really, really good so far this year. So momentum is a big thing. The Kyle Busch was pretty understandable because he ran so well at COTA last year. And the Bubba call, I mean, Bubba has gotten a lot better road courses, so that's not overly surprising, and it's because of his price that helped him fit in. I mean, if you look at it, SVG really did not make the optimal. If you swapped out, well, you couldn't have swapped out Tyler Reddick and SVG because the price was too high. And that's why Shane doesn't make the optimal, is because he's $13,000, but he had 56.2 points. He actually had the second highest points on the board and didn't make the optimal. I mean, Christopher Bell kind of sitting in the same spot with 48.25, and that's what you have to remember kind of going forward, is when you get these lineups that you need the value and inexpensive drivers to make the high price drivers work. Sometimes you'll have 4 drivers that are all high priced and only 2 or 3 of them are going to make it. So then it gets filled in by somebody lower with the lower points. And when we get to the driver discussion and we look at what the point total is to potentially make optimal, that point value goes all the way down to 45, where the expensive drivers like Orion Blaney are closer to 65 points to make optimal. So if that ruler starts to change on its dollar amount, and I can't remember who talked about it earlier about what they want to see as I can't remember what it's called, but the point per $1,000 that you spend on a driver, and some people want to see a 6x point to $1,000 value, or 10x per dollar or per $1,000 that you spend, type of thing. And there's all different ways to kind of look at it and figure it out. I think one driver was 7x, 3 others were 6x in the winning lineup. Yeah, I mean, you could look at it. I mean, Tyler Reddick got 66 points. He was 9,500. I can pull up my calculator real quick and look at it. Oops, other way. Yeah, so Tyler Reddick was 7.02x, where Bubba Wallace was right at 7 also. So 7x was kind of the spot to be in. But, if you look at Shane SVG getting 56.2 at 13,000, he's only at a 4x. So, I mean, for SVG to be up there, he would have needed to be. I mean, he would have had to have 91 points. He would have had to like literally lead all the laps, finish in first, and everything else, and have half the fast laps to get the 91 points to get to the 7x return. So, you know, it doesn't always work exactly correctly on what the X value is compared to per $100, or however it works out. So I just got it on. I know what the highest price drivers are, and you know, for this week, that's $9,000 and up, and then the next level from about 9,000 to 7,500 is the next level. And then it goes all the way down. So it starts at 65 and goes all the way down to 45, and then of course we've got our top 15 that I also kind of put in there also. But either way, Tyler Reddick with a fabulous start has got 3 optimal lineup challenges already cooked into the formula. Bubba Wallace, who also second in points with 2. And I mean, you can kind of look at this. This is kind of who the top 10, top 15 drivers are starting off this year. So this kind of follows very similar to how well they do in points. Kind of funny how that works. But either way, that was COTA. We're on to Phoenix. We're on to a traditional oval. We're on to a racetrack that we've been to many, many times over the course of this history. A lot of these drivers have been here. I mean, I don't even know how many races Denny Hamlin's been. Denny Hamlin's been to this track 41 total starts. So we'll get to him in a minute. But, you know, 41 total starts here at Phoenix, compared to, 4 or 5 for COTA. So a lot more experience, a lot more knowledge, a lot more know how to race it, that type of stuff. You know, and that's why the cream rises to the top. All right, either way, Phoenix is a short, flat track, even though it's not flat in the true essence, but for most of the track, it is kind of flat. Other than turns 3 and 4, it's got a pretty good banking on it. Still nowhere steep as like Bristol and those, but either way, flat track, it's 11 degrees in turns 1 and 2, 9 degrees in 3 and 4. It's progressively banked though, which I need to add into this little formula. The race length is 312 laps, so we've actually got some laps to get some Dominator points. There's a total of 218.4 Dominator points out there. You get somebody who goes out and leads half this race, there's your Dominator. And that is something that happens quite often in this race. And even if they lead half the race and they fall to 10th, they're probably still going to have enough points built up to easily finish close to the optimal or in the optimal. Other tracks to compare to, we've got a lot more comparisons. We've got Richmond, we've got Gateway, we've got Nashville, we've got Iowa. You could even throw a Martinsville in there, even though it doesn't really correlate that well. But you can also look at Loudon as a potential short, flat track. So we've got lots of tracks that we can go and get information on. And with this new 750 horsepower package, it does change looking back at those tracks a little bit, but everybody's still racing the 750 package. So I just think it'll help make the strategy a little bit better and the tire wear a little bit better. If you want to go out and work your way to the front real quick and burn your stuff up, great. Your short run speed's going to be great. If we have long runs, which we typically do here at Phoenix, you're going to get tracked down and probably go to the back. Andrew says, I ruled myself out of a chance last week, limiting to one driver starting in the top 10 per lineup. I mean, that's still, I mean, the theory still holds true. I mean, yes, we had Tyler Reddick and Ty Gibbs, but you couldn't have fit Christopher Bell. I mean, if you had put, I'm not sure who else in the top 10. I mean, I guess you could have taken McDowell, Blaney. I mean, but still, Blaney started 4 and fell to 8th. He only had 41.95 points. I don't know if a $7,500 Blaney would fit in there compared to a Bubba Wallace who started 24th and finished 11th with 45 points at 6,500. I mean, the math still works that on average, one driver in the top 10, if they're the dominator, still plays a little bit true. It gets a little wonky with SVG being at 13,000. So, I still went with that theory. I think I had maybe out of my 80 lineups, I think I may have had 6 lineups that had 2 starters that started in the top 10. And it was like a Ty Gibbs or a Christopher Bell, and I didn't start much of any of Tyler Reddick, so that burned me. But a Michael McDowell and a Ty Gibbs may have been one of my lineups, but then I probably didn't put the rest of it together correctly. So yeah, I mean, I cost myself some too, so I get it. I mean, that's part of the game, and it happens. I mean, that's why only we looked at 25% of the lineups actually end up winning. So you try to mitigate those as best you can, and you look at the historical data, and sometimes the historical data doesn't play out completely. But I have won more times than not following the historical data and following the trends of previous races. So I'm going to stick with it. This is a free channel, so you could take it for however you want, but I put the proof out there when I do well. I also tell you when I don't do well, and I tell you where the mistakes were, and I try to learn. The nice thing about with this AI Claude bot assistant is I can literally have it go in and start to listen to these whatever these called, videos, podcasts, whatever, and give me full summaries, and I could tell it to actually look at how the lineups were built, and I'm going to actually have it analyze all of my lineups and have it analyze the theories and see what worked, what didn't work, and to build a database around that to see if trends are holding true, if thought process are holding true, if algorithms that I'm running are holding true, and how to better utilize all the data that's getting there. Because I mean, it's amazing how much data actually there is to look at these things, and trying to, and then we have the human factor that gets built into this. I mean, AJ Allmendinger, well, shoot, who saw Bowman having to literally leave his car with 20 laps to go, get a relief driver because he couldn't make it. Eric Jones was the same thing. That was never reported in the news that either one of them were feeling under the weather. And in fact, Alex Bowman went so hard that he's got vertigo and can't race this week, and Anthony Alfredo is going to be in his car. I mean, nobody knew that. Henry says, I didn't think they could all hit 6X. Yeah. I mean, now, if SVG had scored more points, that would have changed, because I mean, he wasn't going to get the 91 points. So you put a $13,000 person in, and it changes that variable around. But because SVG didn't get enough points, it brought the dollar amount per driver down also. Because when you don't spend $13,000 on a driver, that's a chunk of change when you're making those builds. So I mean, that's why I was a little leery, and I mean, I think I ran 37% SVG, just because once you build the lineup, it's like I don't have enough decent road course guys in the mix at this point. And even that was with the Ryan Blaney, who actually ended up running really well. The end of the race didn't quite turn out exactly the way we needed to for him, but either way, Yes. Well, we're going to do our best. We're going to look at all the data. We're going to look at all of the practice laps. We're going to look at all of the trends and lines and everything else and make the best educated guess we can and see if it works. I mean, it's like tonight. I was literally sitting in first in 3 different lineups with 21 laps to go. I thought I was sitting in great shape. LeVar Scott blows a tire. Caution comes out. Bunches the field up. Cautions breed cautions. And 3 of my drivers that I had in that optimal lineup or in that lineup that was in first place got taken out. And the next thing I know, I went from winning $1,800 to winning $200. It happens, and that's the human factor in it all. And it is what it is. That's what I said. You can't get. I used to get upset when that would happen, and I'm disappointed. Sure, like you're sitting in first place, winning almost $2,000 with 20 laps to go, and there hasn't been a caution for anything all race. You're like, okay, we just got to finish this thing out, and then all of a sudden it comes out. But that happens way more than I want to even think about it. But it is what it is. Learn from it and we move on. Okay. Optimal laps from the last 4 Phoenix races. And you have to remember when looking at these, we have 2 championship races. The championship race changes the number one, the 4 drivers that were in the championship hunt, changes their race strategy. And because there's 4 guys racing for a championship, it changes the thought process for the other drivers that are on the track. For most. For some people it doesn't, but for most, it changes how they race around those 4 championship contenders. So that's why you typically will see a lot of times the championship contenders all get close to the optimal. Now, you can't run all 4 because typically they're all 4 of the highest priced drivers, but typically 2 make it. Well, only 1 made it last year for this Phoenix race, but it changes the variable in how it gets raced compared to what happens in the spring. And now this year we've got a new body style for Chevy, and we've got the same soft tires with 750 horsepower, and that'll make a difference too. It's also going to be 87 degrees, where the fall it was, I think, in the 60s. So all those variables change every race. So we just look at practice and we make the best educated guess, and we look at these optimal lineups to judge where we need to be. All right. So when we're looking at these, what I'm looking at is how many value drivers were in here and how many drivers over $7,500 were in it also. So 73. So Ryan Blaney and Denny Hamlin, right there's $22,700 of your $50,000. And then you had your value. But either way, what I'm looking for are the expensive drivers, and then I'd kind of draw the yellow line as, okay, that's the point total. So then if I look at the spring race from last year, I also look at how many dominators we have. Once again, 1 dominator, 105 laps led by Christopher Bell, $11,000. Joey Logano at $10,200. We had 3 value. Alice Bowman was just on the other side of not being value. Close though. But still, I'm going to draw the line at Joey Logano, 62.2 points. I mean, we had Denny Hamlin who led 208, had 120, almost 127 points. And that changes how the rest of this gets lined up. Now, do we see any more that are over 100? No. For 2024, nobody made it over 100. But, once again, 2 people. Almost all these drivers are value except for your top 2. Same thing pretty much down here. 10,000, 9,800, and 8,500 was at 58. So what I'm looking for is kind of this little cutoff line of what it takes to make the optimal, or at least be one of the drivers that can be in the optimal. I guess we can go back and look at who else was in the top 15 in points and see if somebody else was left out. Like, maybe Ryan Blaney would have been in this optimal lineup if Joey Logano hadn't finished in first, because I think he finished in second. But either way, it's not a perfect science, but it's better than just guessing. So I'm kind of drawing the line at about 60 to 65 points should be enough to make you into the optimal, depending on who else you're with. What's up, Daniel? What's going on, buddy? How's that baby doing? And the baby to be doing? When's your baby due? Or but either way, so that's what I'm kind of looking at. Is then I look at kind of how many optimal or how many dominators we had per race, and that helps me build out. Okay, an expensive driver working on the nursery about 5 weeks. Oh boy, it's coming soon. Hey, at least your wife doesn't have to go through the scorching summer months, being pregnant. So you get that as a positive, or she gets that as a positive. I guess you won't have to hear about it. So, either way, let's get back to NASCAR, because we do lose an hour of sleep tonight because the time changes. You don't have to roll the clock back because it just happens automatically now. I guess there's a benefit to technology. You don't have to wake up in the morning and be like, "Oh, is it 8 o'clock or is it 7 o'clock?" Or whatever time you happen to roll out of bed. But anyway, so that's kind of what I'm looking at for how many points do we need to get into the optimal. And then I also kind of looking down below of the inexpensive drivers and what their point total was. So we had a 37, a 37, 47, and a 50. So, I'm kind of looking at, for a cheaper driver to make the optimal, I put it at 45 points. We had some that were 47s and some that were in the 37s to make the optimal. I'm just going to draw the line at 45. It's kind of on the higher side. But if I think a driver can get to 45, then I think that's going to be a pretty safe thing. Then I look at the top 15 in points and where they start. And I also look at what the top 15 in points, where they had to get to. And the average was 32.4. So I'm looking on a cheap end, 32 points and 45 to make optimal. And for an expensive guy, all I'm looking for is who's going to be able to get me in the optimal. And that because you can only put two max 3 in that optimal on the expensive drivers. And it's realistically only 2. Because what do we have? 10,000, 10,000, 10,000, close to 10,000. We had some 8,500s. 12,000, 10,000, 11,000, 10,000. Everybody else is, for the most part, fairly inexpensive side. So that's kind of what I'm looking at. Then I'm looking at where does the bulk of the people, is this all coming from place differential? Is it dominator? Is it just make sure you finish the race in a decent position type of scenario? And kind of the sweet spot is 1 through 20. You get, 5.6 of the 15 drivers coming from the top 10 starting spots, and you get 4.6, 11 through 20. And then from 21st to 37th or 38th or 39th, you get the other 4.8. So it's kind of split nicely in the middle. You kind of get 2 that'll start up front, stay up front, 2 that'll be start in the middle, stay in the middle, or, whatever. And then 2 that are really, truly huge place differential guys. So that's kind of what I look at. Then I take my ranking system, which we kind of looked at last week. If you need to go back and review, we're not going to go through that again tonight. But, I look at, all right, who in the top 5 and who in 6 through 10 are my best opportunities. Ryan Blaney, Kyle Larson, Joey, Byron, Chastain, and maybe on the outside chance, a Reddick. 11 through 20, I'm looking at the Hamlin. I'm looking at the Bell. I'm looking at Buescher, Briscoe as potentials. Ryan Preece with a real outside shot. And then in the 20s, I'm looking at a Chase Elliott, a Bubba Wallace, maybe outside shot Kyle Busch starting at 29th. He's got plenty of place differential movement. Todd Gillen starting in 30th, lots of place differential type of moves. Zane Smith, I have not gotten the full report. Family Man sent me a text while I was getting all this set up and ready that Zane Smith got in trouble, or his crew chief got in trouble for making changes. He got ejected. The car will have to start at the rear and do a pass-through green flag penalty. So he'll end up losing at least one, if not two laps at the start of the race. And starting in 24th, it's going to be hard for him to make up any real difference. So Zane Smith will probably be out. Now, he could still potentially make it. It's just going to be really, really difficult. And then the guys that are starting in the 30s, Brad Keselowski, he broke his car. They had to go to a backup car. Now, these cars are pretty similar. And the setups are, they have their setups. And Phoenix is not completely aero dependent. So Brad should be able to move through the field. Eric Jones starting in 32nd, it's not bad. Noah Gragson seems to be in a pretty good starting spot. And then we've got Ty Dillon, Cole Custer, Anthony Alfredo, and Cody Ware. Not the best drivers down here, but we do have some opportunities in the 30s. Daniel says, no Zane for me. Yeah, I'm going to be in that boat. I'm just going to cross him off my list and just move on. And if it happens to bite me, it happens to bite me. I guarantee he will probably be 2% or less owned. He'll be down there with Cody Ware. All right, either way, let's get into the driver by driver breakdown real quick. On this page, this has the list of races that I'm using for the bulk of this page, which is the last 5 races at Phoenix. The 2 from last year, the 2 from 24, and it's supposed to say fall race from 23. I always have one mistake in there. That and this is supposed to be 10 lap, not 5 lap. But Ryan Blaney, most expensive driver on the board, 11,200. It's well deserved. He's starting in 5th. Practice speed, he was 7th, and in 1 lap speed. He did 38 total laps of practice. He was 6th on a 10 lap, not 5 lap, 10 lap consecutive run. Some of these guys had upwards of 25, 30, 35 lap runs, but to get a true picture across the board of everybody, it stopped at about 10. You had about, 2/3 of the field that did 15, and only about half did 20. So to kind of get the picture correct, you stop at 10. And that's why most reports that you see, or and TV's talking about it, they talk about who has the fastest 10 lap average. But Ryan Blaney, 11,200. The reason why it's so expensive, he's got 1 win, 4 top 5s out of these 5 races. One time he's finished outside the top 5, 10, or 20, and it was really bad. He won this race last fall. He averages 55.7 DraftKings average. He almost averages enough to make the optimal for the race. He has an average running position of 6.6. 20 total starts. I still haven't fixed that. Why the wins don't show up here. Sorry about that. I'm still working on everything. I'll get it right. 20 starts, 10 top 5s. So half the time he's finishing in the top 5. He's got a 10.5 average finish. Now here are the practice speeds. So we have the average, which is the white line, and it starts at about 27.8 and goes all the way to about 27.3 to 28.8. So the average over a 25, 26 lap run was 1.5 seconds of time lost from tire degradation. Daniel Suarez had the fastest 1 lap, sub 27, but he falls off. Out of the drivers we're looking at, he falls off the worst of everyone because he burned his stuff up. Is what happened. That's what I said. You can go fast, but you're going to pay it on the long run. Ryan Blaney is the yellow, and you can kind of see he kind of follows the average line, very consistent, and that's something Ryan Blaney does extremely well here at Phoenix. He doesn't really ever do a whole lot of real exciting things. He doesn't really do a whole lot of boring things. He just puts together a really good, solid package for the entire day. And he gets a top 5 or top 10 out of it every time. The other person that was fastest in the 10-lap average run was Austin Cindric. And he is in this light blue. And you can kind of see at the end of the run, from about 15 to 23, he was much faster than average and much faster than Suarez, who sprinted at the beginning and was winded by the end, and Ryan Blaney, who was just following the average line. So those are what we're looking at when we're looking at these charts. And the yellow line will change. These other two and the average will stay consistent. All right, so let's look at the calculator page. Ryan Blaney qualified in 5th. Average finish here, 10.4. For the 5 races at Phoenix, he has the best of 1st. He has the worst of 38th. So that one time he didn't finish in the top 5, he finished 38th. So it's either really, really wreckers or very close to checkers for Ryan Blaney here. The trend line is the last 5 traditional ovals. So that would be Phoenix, Martinsville, Vegas, Kansas, and Loudon are the last 5 traditional ovals. Non-traditional would be super speedways, which we did Dega in there, Daytona in there, and Atlanta in there are not mixed into the pie. And of course, the Roval and Coda are road courses. So the trend line I'm looking at are the traditional ovals, and he has a best of 1st and a worst of 28th. In that time frame for the trend line, he has an average fast laps of 37 per race, average laps led of 62.8. And if we look at Phoenix for the 5 races, he has an average fast lap of 25.6 and average lap led of almost 7. All right, so if we're starting in 5th, and we'll say 2nd for Ryan Blaney, because he has only won once out of 5, but finished in the top 5 4 other times. So we'll just say 2nd to be safe. But the fast laps, we're looking probably close to about 30. We'll give him 30, because that could be kind of the average between the trend line and the 5 races here. And then the laps led, 62.8 to 6.8. We'll say 30 there also. Well, that gives him 66 points. That puts him in that 65 points or more for optimal. So I think Ryan Blaney is one of the drivers I would definitely be interested in. His practice speeds look to be at least better than average. And that's what Ryan Blaney does. And Penske tends to be very, very good at Phoenix. So there's no reason in my mind, even starting in 5th, that I don't take some Ryan Blaney. Now, am I going to go and jump on a 50, 60% run on Ryan Blaney? No, probably not, because there's other drivers that are starting up here also that I think may have close to the same pedigree for Phoenix. Blaney's one of the better ones. So I'll probably be 30, 35% ownership range for Ryan Blaney. Denny Hamlin, who, 4 races ago here, Daniel Pope's calling Bubba for a top 15 finish. I think that's pretty safe. Phoenix is not one of his best tracks, but I think that's pretty safe. 2311 is kind of on a heater right now, and he's also 2nd in points. So, but Denny Hamlin, $11,000, starting in the 11th position. He led 200 laps here last year. He is, that race, pretty much broke Denny for months on end. We didn't hear from Denny for months. And then his dad passed away and everything else. So he had quite an interesting offseason, and then his lawsuit and everything else. But he's probably looking for a little bit of redemption curve. and kind of get one back. And over the 5 races here at Phoenix, he's got 1 top 5, 3 top 10s, 5 top 20s. I mean, if we look at his DraftKings average, it's 64.3. I mean, that's what was Ryan Blaney's? 55.7. So the DraftKings average is actually higher for Denny Hamlin. A 7.6 average finish, 7th place average running position, finished 6th in this race last fall, as we know, after leading all those laps. 41 total starts, 17 times in the top 5, 23 in the top 10, 10.3 average finish. He's solid here at Phoenix. Really, really good. All right, Denny Hamlin's practice speeds. I fear that he may push too much here and overdo it. Potentially. I think there are going to be a lot of drivers that do that. I mean, we've upped the horsepower by, 80? I mean, if you think about it, most cars on the highway only have about 150 horsepower. I mean, some of the ones that are a little bit faster go 200 horsepower. So getting an extra 80 horsepower for these cars that weigh 3,400 pounds, that's a lot of extra horsepower. Gives a lot of extra wheel spin. A lot more torque, which hopefully will help give them speed when they need it, but at a price. Denny Hamlin, his practice speeds were not phenomenal by any means. Started off just about average, kind of hovered just slower than average, and then he had an issue, pitted, came back out, and fired off pretty quick. Now, they only get 1 set of tires for practice, so this was still the same set of tires. They cooled off a little bit, and he came back out. That's when you can always tell when there was a pit stop, is when they have this hiccup in here. And they probably made a little bit of an adjustment. Did they start with the air pressures too low? Did they start with the air pressures too high? Was Denny Hamlin not pushing hard enough? Unsure. I go as much on the history as I do with the practice speeds, unless there's a huge variable that ends up showing up. But none of this makes me worry about Denny Hamlin. Now let's look at the calculator. Denny Hamlin, $11,000, pretty much just close to the same price as Ryan Blaney. You can run both of them, but you're definitely gonna have to go fishing towards the bottom of the barrel. And there's opportunities down there to get something. But we put him on that calculator, starting 11th. Average finish of 9.4. We'll take him to 5th. But if he has an average fast lap for Phoenix of 31.8 and the trend line for traditional ovals for the last 5 races is 37.2, we'll give him the same as we gave Ryan Blaney at 30. Average laps led 75 and 59. Now, at some point, we can't just give everybody 30 laps led. That ends up having a decent amount of laps led on average. But, if we think Denny can get to 30, and he's right there with Ryan Blaney at 66 points, and he finishes 3 spots worse. It's more place differential. Is where the point total comes in. But let's say he doesn't lead all those laps. Maybe Ryan leads a lot more and Joey Logano leads him a lot more. And this gets dropped down to 5. And maybe he's not as fast, so he gets 25 fast laps. I mean, it's still 57.5. To be in the top 15 is 32. Now, does that mean I don't run Denny Hamlin because he's not going to be potentially optimal by finishing 5th? No, because I think this all of a sudden goes back to the build. If you had a Denny Hamlin who got 57.5, and have Zane's not going to do it because he's got all the penalties and stuff, but Zane's starting 24th and finishes in 6th, but he's only 50 some odd $100. It helps you get a lot more drivers. If you can pick the right ones. What we're looking for here is 2 drivers that we think have the best opportunity to be in that optimal lineup. Or, we're looking at which 5 of those drivers, and then we start to mix and match when we start to do our builds. Because I think Denny Hamlin's perfectly safe. I think Ryan Blaney's perfectly safe to put in lineups. Don't see any real obvious issues or problems. And this new horsepower package actually falls more into Denny Hamlin's wheelhouse than a lot of other drivers, because he was around when we used to have 750 horsepower and softer tires, and you had the ability to burn off a set of tires very quickly. William Byron, 10,700, starting in 9th. I mean, his practice speeds were okay. They're 21st and 22nd, so not the greatest by any means, but 12.8 average finish, 4.6 average running position. Doesn't have a win in the last 5, but he's led a ton of laps here at Phoenix. Always runs well. Always seems to have a little bit of an issue. Whether they blow a tire or they get a little bit of damage or something, always something he's a little snake bitten here. Does that continue to linger on? Maybe, maybe not. Look at his practice speeds. Not sure why he had such a slow start here. Maybe he had to slow down because a fast car was coming and it was just a slow lap. But the rest of the laps seem to be good. Actually, better than average. And that's the whole thing. If he, his 10-lap average gets kind of slowed down by this, and his fastest lap slows down because once he finally gets going again, he's already started to wear his tires a little bit, and he can't hit this low mark. So I'm not overly concerned. His practice speeds were better than average. You can see where he came in and probably made a pit stop right here. Came out and fired back off pretty quick again. But his speeds were faster than average for the entire thing. Starting in 9th, he's got the question is, do you think William Byron is snake bit? So if I'm looking at running Denny Hamlin and Ryan Blaney in the mid 30s as percentages, maybe this gets ticked down 5, maybe 10%. So instead of 35, maybe I'm running William Byron 25. I just don't trust it as much until, maybe the snake bite goes away. So maybe we'll bump the average finish down to 7th. We look at the average fast laps. He's right there with Denny and Ryan, 20 and 31. Average laps led, 50 and 80. Once again, not everybody can go out and lead 40 or 50 laps. We just don't have enough laps for that to happen. And typically you get one driver who's going to go out here and lead 100. And then a couple others that'll lead, 30, 40, 50. But at that point, you're only looking at 5 drivers that are going to do that. But if William Byron does, what does it look like? 25 fast laps, which is kind of the average. And we'll go to the 30 laps led. We won't even go above the average. 57.75 points. Kind of puts in the same ballpark as a Denny. If Denny doesn't get any better than 5th. So I don't have a problem playing William Byron. I think, like I said, there's a potentially he's got a little bit of a snake bite with this place. But is it enough for me to fade off too much? No. I'd either like to see some more place differential or slightly better practice speeds, but I'm not worried about William Byron. I'll run him. Kyle Larson, 10,200, starting it in 2nd. His practice speeds were okay. 18th in single lap, 16th in 10 lap consecutive average. I mean, his finishes are phenomenal. They're right there with Ryan Blaney. In fact, slightly better than Ryan Blaney's. 4 top 5s, 4 top 10s, 5 top 20s, a 5.4 average finish. His Draftkings average is a little low because he didn't go out and lead a bunch of laps and have a bunch of fast laps. We'll look at that in 1 second. But an 8.8 average running position. Finished 3rd in this race last fall and won the championship. 23 total starts, 10 top 5s, 14 top 10s. 10.2 average finish. Nothing wrong with any of these lines at all. Practice speeds, he was right down the average line. And in some instances, I mean, he was probably a little worse than Ryan Blaney. And what's so funny is you listen to some of his interviews this weekend, and he's like, yeah, I really don't race that well here. Dude, you have 4 top 5s in the last 5 races here. What are you talking? You don't race well here. I think in Kyle's mind, he just doesn't race well anywhere other than 1.5-mile tracks or a dirt track. But starting in second, does he get around Joey Logano, who's got the pole at the beginning? I mean, I have a real interesting theory that, I mean, Joey Logano could get out to a fast start, and Joey Logano could easily lead the first stage. I forgot to look. I always forget to look what the stages are for this race. 60, 125, and then 127. So 60 is the early run. Can they make it on a full run? I think if there's no caution, I think they run to the caution on the first stage. And then I think they split. If they can do that, that means they can split the second and third stage because they're 125. They're not much longer, and you'll lose a few laps from the stage break caution. So, if I'm looking at anybody that could potentially lead a bunch of laps, I'm putting it either on Joey or on Larson to lead the bulk of the beginning. The part that kind of concerns me a little bit, we'll look at Joey's speeds, is the fire off long run speed was okay for Kyle. Now, the thing we don't know that will make a difference is the 750 horsepower and the softer tire enough to overcome the aerodynamic blocking that we've seen for years. Aerodynamics doesn't mean a whole lot at Phoenix, but it does when you are trying to make a pass. So, you have to kind of go, all right, do we, I'm probably in the same boat I am with Larson as I am Byron. Maybe slightly a little bit less off. And I'm a Larson fan. I mean, his best finish is second, his worst finish is 7th over the last 5 races at Phoenix. The trend line for the last 5 traditional ovals, 3rd and 14th. 14th place is his worst finish at a non-traditional, at a traditional oval over the last 5 races. But if we look at this though, his average fast laps and his average laps led are fairly low. He's just putting together good, solid finishes. Well, what's going to be the theme of the game this year to making the playoffs? Good, solid, average finishes. Well, Kyle Larson seems to have that one figured out. So it's baked into the cake at this point. No reason to mess with the cake. I'm going to give him a 3rd place finish. It's kind of just where the average kind of falls for him. It actually says 5th, but I'll give him the 3rd. But I'm not going to give him a whole lot of fast laps or laps led. It's 44.2. That's not enough to make the optimal. So maybe I'm in the 15-20% range for the Kyle Larson. Now, if we think he can get out front and stay out front for the first stage, and he gets 60 and 20 fast laps at 64, that puts him right at that optimal line. You just have to go, okay, when I build my lineup, I'm going to build it with Kyle Larson. If you're going to put Kyle Larson in, you have to first off say, okay, I think he's going to finish in the top 5, and he's going to go lead the majority of the first stage at 60 laps. That's if I'm putting Kyle Larson in my build, that's the race I think that might end up happening for that build. Then the other one would be, I think Joey Logano is going to do that. And if that's the case, I probably am not going to run Joey and Kyle both in the same lineups. I don't think they split the laps led evenly. Once again, is anything possible? Sure. Probability? Not so good. So that's my thought processes on Kyle Larson and Joey Logano. We haven't gotten to Joey Logano yet, but we'll get there in just a moment. Christopher Bell, who won this race last spring en route to one of his 3 peats in a row. Just didn't happen to be the first 3 races of the year. 10,200 starting in 12th. Practice speeds were really good for Christopher Bell, 8th and 10th. He's got 2 wins over the last 5 races, both spring races, last spring and 24. Along with that, 3 top 5s, 3 top 10s, 4 top 20s, a 10.8 average finish, 9.8 average running position. Really, really solid all the way around. I mean, there's a reason why all these guys are priced all together at the top, and you can't run them all. You got to pick and choose or run enough different lineups where you mix and match them. We look at his practice speeds. He fired off as fast as Austin Cindric. Austin Cindric just barely edged him out on a couple of laps, or Christopher Bell would have been probably one of the faster long run speeds. So, the problem I have with Christopher Bell, he's starting in 12th. Well, he's not going to go lead a whole lot in the first stage. Now, there's 2 more stages to go. Do we think Christopher Bell gets up there and leads a bunch of laps? Potentially. Because we look at his average laps led at Phoenix, it's almost 60. His average fast laps is 28. This is one of Christopher Bell's better tracks, because when we look at the last 5 traditional ovals, and those include 2 mile-and-a-half tracks, Martinsville, Phoenix, and a Loudon. And Loudon he's actually pretty good at too. His average laps led fall to 8.6. So historically, Phoenix is one of his better tracks. Starting in 12th, he's got some room to run. Not a whole lot, but he does have the potential of making up some laps. So let's give him the 4th. And we'll give him the 25 fast laps. And let's say he doesn't get to the lead until stage 3. And leads the first half of stage 3. And he gets his 60 laps led. 74.25 points. I like the Christopher Bell play. I like the Christopher Bell play as much as I like the Denny Hamlin play. Maybe even potentially a little bit more. But they're interchangeable. They're interchangeable with Ryan Blaney. I have no problem putting the 3 of them in a bucket and mixing it all up with other drivers. So, especially since all I need is a 4th place finish, I don't have to get the win out of Christopher Bell. I just need to go out and lead some laps and get a 74-point day. I'm all right with that. Tyler Reddick. Can Tyler Reddick get 4 in a row? Like I said before, anything's possible. The probability on it's not great. The last 5 races here, he does not have a top 5, only 2 top 10s and 3 top 20s. These mile or less tracks, Tyler Reddick has historically not done well at. He's gotten better, but historically, it's probably his worst discipline. He perfectly fine at road racing, really good at mile-and-a-halves, pretty decent on super speedways, but the half mile to mile, he definitely has a little bit of a struggle with. So, and I've seen it in person. Now his average finish at Phoenix is a 10 point. His average running position is 10.3. Average finish is 16.8. 12 total starts, only 2 top 5s and 4 top 10s. So only a third of the time is he even finishing in the top 10. He's starting in 8th. Can it happen? Sure. I didn't think it was going to be possible for him to win 3 in a row. He did. His practice speeds actually were not bad. Even on the long run, they were not bad. They weren't as good as Austin Cindric. The question is, I mean, can lightning strike 2 weeks in a row? Actually, out of all the tracks so far that we've had, Tyler Reddick's probably best track was COTA. So, the other 2, right place, right time, in my opinion. But Tyler Reddick, I mean, he's pricey. I mean, all these guys are pricey. I mean, DraftKings, you're going to have a tough time running any more than probably 2 of these guys that are starting $10,000 or more, without just having to scrape the bottom of the barrel for the other 4. It's just they priced it right this week. His best finish is 5th in the last 5 races at Phoenix, 26th is his worst. So at least he's not completely crashing out. And the trend line is 6 to 26. He typically ends up still finishing races. So that's kind of the safe thing about Tyler Reddick. Even if he has a bad car, he usually doesn't get totally destroyed at these non-super speedway style races. But we'll put him on the calculator. I just don't like the play. If it burns me again this week, it burns me again this week. I don't see a 4-peat happening. Not with the level of competition at Phoenix. If this were, if we were in Vegas or Kansas, I'd say 2311 Tyler Reddick have a really good shot. If we look at his average fast laps, what is that about? We'll give him 10. An average laps led of 6, 10, 6. Finishing 3rd, he gets you to 52 points. Let's say he does pull off a win, but only leads 20 of those laps and has 10 fast laps. 61.5. I mean, it's close. I don't know. I'm just going to go on a gut and say I might have Tyler Reddick in 5 to 10% of my lineups. I'm not going 0, because weird things happen in this sport all the time. It's not going to be so weird that Cody Ware wins the race, but it's somebody who's capable of winning, could still potentially win. They've got momentum on their side. That's all I'm going to say. I'm not going to go too much into putting a whole lot of stock into Reddick getting number 4. If it bites me, I'll be more than happy to come in here next week and be like, yep, that one cost me some money. Chase Briscoe, 9,500, starting in 20th. I know he does have one win here. He actually got his first Cup Series win at Phoenix. I think it was spring race of 22. I need to get this fixed. I got everything else worked out correctly. But he was quick in practice, 3rd in single lap, 3rd in 10 lap consecutive average. His average finishes, though, recently have been not that great. 23.0, average running position of 20.8. His 10 total starts, it's an 18.4. Twice he's finished in the top 5, and one of those was a win. He fired off really fast in practice, and then it just got slow. He burned his stuff up. I mean, plain and simple. I mean, it's real apparent that Daniel Suarez did that, but Chase Briscoe really burned his stuff up early. It's very apparent in looking at the chart. So they'll learn from that. He'll learn from that. He'll learn he can't go as hard. Now, the upside for Chase Briscoe, he's starting in 20th. Lots of place differential for somebody who has won here before in the next gen car. And that was with Stuart Haas. Now, if we think maybe Briscoe could get up to 6th, and as I said, we look at the trend line for the last 5 traditional ovals, it's 19.6. Average laps led here is 1. So, let's bring that down to, we'll give him 5 laps led and 5 fast laps. 55.55 points. 10 points out of probably optimal. So we need Chase Briscoe to do a little better. Gonna need to get top 3. And probably have closer to 10 fast laps. Potentially. I mean, that's kind of where it needs to be. So, I mean, $9,500 for Anybody over $9,000, they're going to need to be semi-dominant in the race, meaning 30, 40 laps led, which will give them, that'll equate to probably about 15 to 20 fast laps. If he's able to do that, if he's able to get 30 laps led and 15 fast laps, he could fall all the way to 7th and still be real close to that optimal line. So, and that's what laps led and fast laps will get you. So I like the starting spot for Chase Briscoe. I have a feeling he'll get some ownership because of that. So, a little buyer beware. I'm probably going to run him 20, 25% ownership. It's kind of where I'll probably end up falling with Briscoe. Joey Logano, $9,200, starting from the pole. Once again, we kind of talked about this earlier with Ryan Blaney. Penske's are really good here. Joey's really good here. Not as good as Ryan Blaney, though. 1 win, 2 top 5s, 2 top 10s, 4 top 20s, an average finish of 14.0, average running position of 12.9, but he's starting from the pole. When Joey has a tendency to get out front and control the field, it goes a long way. He usually doesn't relinquish it very well. He has a unique tact of being able to aero block with his car. If he's able to get the lead and get it away from Kyle Larson on the first lap, I could easily see where Joey Logano could easily lead the first stage. So what do his practice speeds look like? I mean, pretty good. They look very similar to Austin Cindric's. Fired off just a tick slower, but then got a little bit faster, and they just kind of crisscrossed all the way through. So, all the way up until lap 19, and then it's hard to say what right here. He may have been avoiding one of the cars that ended up having a tire failure, or somebody was pitting and he had to get out of the way. I don't think when you have this big of a spike, it doesn't show that it was a mishandling. It was much more of probably a crash avoidance type scenario, or you just pushed too hard in the corner, it slipped a little, and you just had to get out of the throttle for that lap. But he came back and fired up perfectly fine. So I'm not worried. Joe Logano is showing plenty of speed here. The thing that's going against Joey is he's starting in first. There's nowhere to go for place differential at all. So starting first, finishing first seems to be a trend. The last 2 weeks that's happened. And that happened in threes, maybe. If that happens, we could easily probably give him the average laps led for Joey here at Phoenix is 20 and 11 for the trend line. Average laps led is almost 40, 37.6. And for the trend line, it's 30. So let's give him fast laps. We'll give him the 15, and we'll give him 30. 59.25. That's if he finishes in first. Now, let's say he is able to get out and lead the entire first stage. That's going to be more closer to 60-20. Gives him 69 points. A dominant day, 110 and 40. Now we're in that 90-point range. That's what a real dominator looks like for points. I don't like to put in numbers like that because you just don't ever know who will be the dominator. And I go more with the shot of could the dominators get spread out? And a perfect example of that is the spring 2024 race. We had 50 laps led, 55 laps, 57 laps, 68 laps, 14 laps, all spread out. And that's where we saw more drivers in the $8,000 and above range make the optimal lineup. And then Michael McDowell and Todd Gillen rounding it out because they were value. So It does happen. It's only happened once out of the last 4. So, but it does happen. So let's say Joey's not able to secure that, but does have his 20 average fast laps. But he's able to lead. Let's say he goes out and leads the first 20 laps and then burns off his stuff. 59 points. I mean, a 9,200, I think that falls too low to be in the optimal range. Still makes him in the top 15, but you're probably looking at 2 other drivers that will end up having better days. And that's if he finishes in first. If he slips and finishes in 6, I mean, he's at this point borderline starting to get out of range of definitely being in the optimal. I think he stays in the top 15 in points, but they're much better choices. You're going to have a rough day if that happens and you have Joey Logano. That's why you only build the lineup if you think Joey Logano, number 1, is going to get first, and he's going to lead 60 laps or more. So I'm probably going to put Joey at about a 10-15% range. Hi, Joey. Yeah, I mean, but I also would not completely fade Joey. And trust me, I don't like Joey Logano, but I would not completely fade Joey. I'm probably going to have him in 10 to 15% of lineups, but I'm going to put him in a lineup that I think he wins and he leads probably 100 laps. So then I'm building the rest of the lineup around that scenario. It's just I'll build 4 lineups with 5 drivers that are all the same, but I'll have Joey Logano as one of the persons, and I'm going to swap Joey out for Kyle Larson. And then I'll have the other 5 drivers probably the same, or 4 out of the 5 drivers be the same. But that's how I build my lineups. Not saying it's right, not saying it's wrong, not saying it works all the time, not saying it doesn't work all the time. It's sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. But that's the way I like when I've got 2 guys that, like, next week we go to Las Vegas. If Kyle Larson's starting from the pole, I'm going to run Kyle Larson 40-45%, especially if he was one of the faster guys in practice. He is just that. And if if Ryan Blaney had the pole for tomorrow, I would probably be running Ryan Blaney, or Christopher Bell had the pole. I would probably run them 35 to 40%. I just don't trust Joey Logano. He doesn't have the average finishes to back it up. So that's kind of where I am. Chase Elliott, 26th. Ooh. But honestly, this is not one of Chase Elliott's better tracks. Doesn't have a top 5 in the last 5 races. 20 total starts, he only has 5 top 5s. So 25% of the time, which is, actually pretty respectable. 50%, he's finishing top 10. In the last 5 races, in the next gen era, it's not been as good. Practice speeds were 14th and 26th. Let's look at the practice speeds. He's here in yellow. Definitely started off a little slow, but picked it up. Ran better than average, a little worse than average. Pretty much average. Nothing wrong with that. Starting in 26, lots of room to run. Do you want to talk about place differential? We've got really good potential place differential. This is I don't know if he goes out and leads many laps. We'll give him the token 1, and we'll give him 5 fast laps. And if he gets to 3rd, it's 66.5 points without really leading a lap. But a maybe. But let's say he finishes in, what's his average? 10th, 52.5. He's going to need more fast laps, especially if we don't think he's going to lead. Starting 26, it's going to be tough. 15 fast laps while he's moving up, 57 points. I mean, we're getting close. This 9,000 is getting close to dropping the optimal closer to 60. He's close. I don't mind taking some shots because, I mean, you make it to 5th and he's optimal all day. But falls to 10th, it becomes iffy. Any worse than 10th, it's probably not great. Yeah, 15th, 15 fast laps, not leading a lap, even starting in 26th. It's only 46 points. Sure, it's top 15. It's not a complete fade by any means, but it's not an absolute slam dunk where I think he's probably going to have some he's probably going to have some decent ownership because people are going to see, ooh, 26. I got lots of place differential here. I'll place Chase Elliott. I'll probably run him 20, 25% if that's what fits. I'm starting to run a lot of guys in a lot of percentages here. So I'm going to probably have to back off. If I'm probably going to back off, I want to back off where I know that the guy's not great at this track and his practice speeds were about average. I'll probably back off on Chase Elliott because I also know that he's super popular and he'll end up getting ownership just because of his popularity. Ross Chastain, $8,800 starting in 6th. It's actually pretty fast in practice. He was 4th in single lap, 2nd in 10 lap consecutive average. Good average finish, 10.7. He's got 1 win. He won the fall championship race of 2024. And that was his only top 5, but one other time he finished in the top 10, but all 5 times he's finished in the 20s. But he's starting in 6th. Like I said, his practice speed's really good. 4th and 2nd. He finished 13th in this race last year. I just really don't know how comfortable I am with Ross Chastain finishing in 6th. If we look at his practice speeds, there's nothing bad. There's nothing good. It's just kind of a ground ball. And starting in 6th, I think you need more than a ground ball. If you start in 6th, even if you win, and let's say you're able to lead 30 laps, 15 fast laps, that gets him there. I don't know. And at $8,800, that's real expensive when I've got guys that I think are much better options that are starting in the top 10, or have a better history here. It's not that Ross has a bad history here. The other thing, this is where Trackhouse is probably going to give a little bit more towards Ross when it comes to maybe a little bit support. Maybe if they're building 3 cars, which one's the faster of the 3 cars? This gives Ross a chance and an opportunity to even the field with SVG on making the playoffs. I'm not saying that Zillage can't make it. It's just, he's a rookie and he's already pretty far behind. So it's going to be much more of a learning here for him. But who's going to get the faster car at a road course? SVG all day, every day. And so will Zillage. So Ross is going to be the third man out there. On these other tracks, Ross probably is going to get the better car of the 3. Because he's got the pedigree to actually finish better at these types of races. Now we get close to cutoff lines in the playoffs, and SVG is real close. And Ross is in pretty good shape. They'll switch that. So trust me, they know what those cars are capable of from dyno testing before they ever get to the track on which one of the 3 or 4 are the fast ones. And they know where to put it. Chris Buescher, 85. So am I going to be a complete fade on Ross? Probably not. Am I going to be in the 5 to 10% range on Ross? Yeah, that's probably where I'll fall on it. I got to fade somebody out of this expensive group of people, or I'm just going to end up not being able to build correct lineups. Chris Buescher at 8,500, starting in 17th. He's got a great average finish, 6.6. So if I'm looking at the the factor of taking a Ross Chastain or taking a Chris Buescher. Chris Buescher has an average finish of 6.6. No, he doesn't have a win, but he's got 3 top 5s, 4 top 10s, 5 top 20s in the last 5 races here. I mean, pretty good stats. An 11.1 average running position, 50.8 Draftkings average. Now, he wrecked in practice. I mean, so did Brad Keselowski. So they're going to be busy in the RFK garage repairing cars and getting cars ready to race tonight. His practice speeds were, I mean, from lap 5 through 11 until he wrecked it. And that wasn't his fault. They were in the air pressures way too low. That was his crew chief's fault. But they'll adjust. He was on par with everyone else. He's starting in 17th. And they made enough repairs that he was able to qualify 17th. I like the play. I like this play. If you start in 17th, and let's say you can get to your average finish of 6 here at Phoenix. 17th, not 7th. I was like, why isn't that getting better? 51.5. He's going to need to do a little bit better. Average fast laps. He doesn't have a whole lot. Doesn't have a whole lot of laps led. So, I'm not looking for a whole lot here. So maybe 7. He's going to need to finish better than 6. He's going to need to finish top 3. He's going to have to finish top 3 at least. And if that ends up happening, this will move up a little bit. Yeah. But I do like this play more than I like playing Ross Chastain. So he's going to have to finish top 3 because he doesn't typically have a whole lot of fast laps or laps led here. So, and that's at 58.4 to finish 3rd. I mean, even if you finish in 1st, it puts you right at that 65. Now, I think 8,500 points probably brings this down to really realistically 60 and maybe in the high 50s. So maybe it does play with a 3rd. I'm willing to give some shots. Now, am I going to go super deep on it? No. I'm probably going to be in the 15% range. Brad Keselowski, 8,300, starting from 37th in a backup car with a bum leg. Now, he's proven that the bum leg is not an issue. If he can go out and race Coda for the entire race and get out of the car and not have any real issues, he's fine to race Phoenix. Not worried about that at all. It has not shown to be any detriment to Brad Keselowski and having speed. And the only reason he wrecked his car is because they ran the air pressures too small. But in the last 5 races here, he's got 2 top 5s, 2 top 10s, 4 top 20s, a 13.8 average finish, starting in 37th. Now, Brad's going to be super heavily owned. No doubt about it. Starting shotgun on the field. Last place. It's not going to take a whole lot. Like, just crack the top 10. I mean, crack the top 20, pretty much. Get to 19th. Get you 42 points. Now, okay, so he's going to need to... There's somebody else I'm thinking about starting back there that I think has a realistic shot of a top 20 that it changes. But the optimal line changes. He's going to need to get to 10th. Because I realistically think probably 8,300 is probably going to be closer to 60 points on the optimal. His best finish is 2nd, worst is 23rd. If he gets a 10th place finish, let's say he just doesn't quite make it to the top 10, 11th, and you have 3 fast laps. We'll leave the token 1 lap led. Because he actually averages 2. 59.6, right there. Any better than 11th, and Brad's probably in the optimal pretty easily. Anything worse? If he finishes 19th, it's 43.6. In the top 15, so it's not a complete fade. But remember, he's going to be pretty heavily owned. An $8,300 driver with a 13th place average finish at $8,300 is going to get you some ownership. So it's a buyer beware. I'm probably not going to be as heavy as the field on Brad. I'm probably going to be like a 20% ownership range. All right, Kyle Busch starting in 29th. Ooh, lots of maybe potential opportunities with place differential. Here is 17th in single lap, 29th in 5-lap consecutive average. In the last 5 races here, 1 top 5, 2 top 10s, 16.2 average finish. Finished in 5th in the fall race here last year. Let's look at the speed chart. Average or worse than average. And so the average with 37 drivers, 15, 16, 17 and a half, 18. So pretty much 18th, starting 29th. With an average finish here of 16.2. So just about average. So put it on the calculator. Let's see, 29th. Get to 17th. Doesn't have really any average fast laps or laps led. We'll give him a token 1 and 1. Put you at 38.7. I could see where the real potential of fading Kyle Busch would come in. Now, we think Kyle's going to end up showing up and having a decent day. A 10th place finish gets you to 53.7. Still not at the 60 that we potentially need. Going to need to get to 7th probably. Yeah, 7th would probably put him close to an optimal line. Anything better, of course, would probably put him there. So, do you think Kyle Busch with a 15.6 average finish makes it to 7th? He's been pretty snake bitten for the last, 18 months. I'm not going to be a complete fade, but I'm going to probably be underweight on Kyle Busch. I don't know if I'd love to play. Josh Berry, 7,800. I know he's part of Team Penske. I know Team Penske is supposed to be pretty fast here. And, I mean, Josh Berry's average finishes are not awful. 15.3 for Phoenix. In these 5 races, he's got 1 top 5, 2 top 10s. Now, the one thing going for Josh, there's 2 things. Number 1, he's Penske. Number 2, he's Josh Berry. What is Josh Berry absolutely known for? Short track racing. Well, we're racing at a mile track. It's still considered an intermediate. It's really not considered a short track. But probably the one best thing about Josh Berry that he's known for is his tire management. If he's got the setup and he has the control, and he's used to having these light cars with really, really high horsepower that could burn tires up, Josh is really good at knowing how to conserve. So with that going, starting in 10th, the problem is you're starting in 10th. Now, I mean, his practice speeds were about average, which would mean closer to 17th or 18th. I don't know. I think the problem with this is I think he's just starting too far up for me to really like, because I don't think this is set up for a win. Not saying it can't happen. Not saying it won't happen. The probabilities are pretty low. I think Josh Berry's 10 to 1. I think he's 10 to 1. I think is what I saw on Draftkings. No, I think he's closer. I think he was 10,000, which dropped 2 zeros. It's 100. So I think he's 100 to 1 to win. I mean, if you think he's going to go out and win, go bet that line. Don't play this game. But if he goes and does that, and he does it late, I mean, it gets him to 63. But that only gets him to 63. Getting in first, I just think he's starting too far up. Even though there are a couple things that go in Josh's favor. Number 1, Penske, Phoenix, tire wear. There's the average finish, though, at 15.4. Starting in 10th, you need a first place finish to make this happen, right? I will probably fade off of Josh Berry. Not a complete, probably in the 5% range. So I'll probably be even with the field. I think he's between 5 and 10% ownership. Because everybody knows that secret here is Penske's really good at Phoenix. But so is Hendrick and so is Joe Gibbs. So, I mean, the three big teams are good at Phoenix. Surprise, surprise. The race that was the championship race for a long time. Carson Hocevar, $7,700, starting in 7th. He was 2nd in practice. Good for him. 5th in 10-lap consecutive average. And, I mean, not bad. Out of his 5 total starts, he finished 3 in the top 20. He's never finished in the top 10. That's the downfall with starting in 7th when your average finish is 23.2. Yeah, so the 3 times that he did not finish in the top 20 were really ugly to pull it to there. Look at his practice speeds. I mean, he fired off really fast. And I think that helped his 10-lap average come into play. But beyond that, he was average at best. Kind of like Daniel Suarez. Fired off real fast and then just faded. And that, I think, may be a downfall for Carson Hocevar, is that he's so aggressive. I think he'll end up burning his tires up, and I think it's going to cost him. If so far I'm going to fade anybody that's starting in the top 10, I'm probably going to be very close to a full fade on Carson Hocevar. It's too risky, even at $7,700. I mean, the optimal line, we're probably in the 55 to 60 range. May not be a full 60 at this point. 7th. Oh, I keep forgetting. Make sure you hit the like and subscribe button. I appreciate you tuning in. We do this every Saturday night, either at 9 o'clock or right after the Xfinity race, like tonight. I mean, 4th with 3 and 1, it's 44.6. I mean, this would need to be the chance he goes out, maybe finishes in 2nd, has 15 fast laps and leads 30 laps. And I don't, that's asking a lot from a Carson Hocevar, especially since there are a lot of people in the garage that would like to pay Carson back. One being really, really good here at this track, named Christopher Bell. But I mean, most of the garage has a payback for Carson Hocevar. And it looks like Cole Custer got away with one last week. I'm surprised there was no penalty for that, because he just flat wrecked Carson Hocevar, hooked him right into the wall. There was no TV footage of it. There's plenty of in-car camera footage from Cole Custer. He looks like he potentially hooked him into the wall. So he got lucky with that. Connor Zilic, starting in 19th, $7,500. We don't have any statistical data. He's never run the Cup car here. Starting in 19th, and I haven't even looked to see where Carson ran in what was the Xfinity Series, O'Reilly Series, at Phoenix. Connor Zilic. Let's see what his history at Phoenix was in O'Reilly parts. Results by track. All years. Phoenix. He has 3 races, 2 top 5s. An average finish 7.7. So, but I'm not sure we get to that with Connor Zilic. I mean, maybe we do. That's a tough pill. All right. Let's see what he does need to do. His practice speeds were, I mean, for a rookie, first time the Cup Series car here at Phoenix, kind of a tough little racetrack to figure out. Solid numbers, to be perfectly honest. I mean, it was 12th and 9th. That's not shabby, especially if you're a rookie at 7,500. And honestly, I think we're probably getting closer to the 55 point range for optimal at 7,500. So we'll go with that. Let's see what Connor Zilic needs to get to. So you need to get to that 7.7 average O'Reilly Cup finish. He's going to need to get even better than that. So I just don't know if Connor Zilic gets that far up this soon in the Cup Series on a traditional oval. So I'm probably going to be a mostly fade on Connor. I might run 5 or 10%. He'll probably fall in the same boat as Josh Berry. It just, if all of a sudden just the planets align correctly, we'll go there. Who said Bubba this week? Was that Pope or was that Lost Prophet or Andrew who called? Calling Bubba top 15. Oh, but top 15 finish? I mean, we're not going too far off on a limb here. I mean, he's got an average finish of 19.8. Okay, so his average finishes are worse than 15th. Practice speeds were 16th and 21st, so outside the top 15, but he's starting 28th. If he gets to Pope's call out of a top 15, maybe. Let's look at his practice speeds. I mean, he started off slow the first 2 laps, but then was perfectly fine at average or better. We said average is about 17th, 18th. So, I think your top 15 call is probably a decent call. If he gets to 16th, 39.7, 55 points. Gonna need to get to closer to definitely a top 10 to get to that 55 point range. I don't mind taking some Bubba Wallace. There's room to run, and that's with only 1 fast lap. I mean, he's averaging, appears to be about 5. It gets him over the 55 points. And at 7,200, that's value. Anything under $7,500, I put on value. So we need 3 or 4 value drivers. I have no problem mixing and matching a fair amount of Bubba Wallace into this mix. Probably somewhere 15% range ish, maybe a little lower, maybe a little less, maybe get all the way up to 20. 23-11's on a hot streak. He's second in points right now. So I don't mind that at all. I don't think he goes out and wins. I don't think 23-11's at that. I don't think Phoenix is the best track for him. They could completely surprise me tomorrow, and if it does, I'll eat my crow very humbly next week. Ryan Preece, $7,000 starting in 13th. This lines up really, really well for Ryan Preece. Ryan Preece is really good at these half mile, 3/4 of a mile long tracks. Burn your tires up. He's a lot like Josh Berry. He knows how to conserve. He knows how to be there at the end. He runs mile or less style tracks extremely competitively. His practice speeds were not great. 27th, a little worse than average. His average finish is 19.6. A lot of things don't lead in the great direction for Ryan Preece, but got to remember, a lot of these average finishes are not with RFK. Only 2 of the races with RFK. The other, whatever he starts, was with Stuart Haas, who was hit or miss sometimes. But he was worse than average pretty much all of practice, we could call it. Maybe the last 20, 21, 22, but it was right at average, which we've talked about 17th-ish, 18th. And his average finish is about 16th, starting in 13th. There's a long shot that he gets there, but I mean, his best finish is 6th or 9th. So we could put his best finish of 6th then, and he would need to have 15 fast laps, more than that even. 20? I don't know if he has 20 fast laps in him. Compared to the field, I mean, I don't think you get that many fast laps without leading a lot of laps, and I don't know if Ryan Preece goes out and leads a lot of laps. So starting in 13th, I think he's starting too far up. I'm probably going to run Ryan Preece like I run Josh Berry. I'll probably run, not a complete fade, probably closer to 5%. I think, honestly, we're probably looking at about a 18th place finish with, we'll give him 5 fast laps. Bubba had a brake issue and wrecked the last 2. Yes. What was Bubba's average running position? 18th. I trust me, I like the Bubba Wallace call. I just always like to put the pros and cons on what it takes to get there and what it takes to not get there. So I will run, like I said, probably 15, probably closer to 20% of Bubba. And yeah, I don't mind your top 15 call. I don't think you can bet the top 15. I think you have to bet the top 10 though, if you're gambling. But with Ryan Preece, I'm probably going to run him a lot like I do Josh Berry, 5%, give or take. Probably the same of what I would run Connor Zilic. I'm probably going to put them kind of in mixer match type opportunities. If it fits and I'm looking to differentiate a little bit. I just don't think they get much ownership either. So I'm not going to be too off from the field. Austin Cindric next in line. Penske, Ford, one of the fastest drivers in practice. 6,900 starting in 3rd. But your average finish at Phoenix is abysmal. 27.4. 8 total starts, 24.6. Never finished in the top 10, 3 times in the top 20. I don't understand. Austin Cindric was really good in Xfinity, and he shows at times he's really good at Cup, but it's rare. I don't understand. I mean, the pedigree behind Austin Cindric is really good. Ton of money. Really good team and really good organization. I would say he's on the hot seat this year, but his dad just got rehired by Penske. So I think Austin's perfectly safe in that seat, and it's kind of like, all right, I'll just do what I can. He was super fast in practice. He qualified really well. I just don't trust it, especially when we're talking about who else he's in company with. So, will I run him in? I'm probably closer to being, if I'm running 80 lineups, I might run him in 2. Just for the simple fact that I think his ownership is going to be sub 5%. Definitely sub 10%. It differentiates yourself. It does all those things. But I mean, I don't have to put it on the calculator. I mean, for him to make the 55-point mark, 3rd, he's all right. We're just going to say he's going to go and win. And he's going to go have, I mean, his average laps led is 1.2 here at Phoenix. His average laps led at traditional ovals is 0. I mean, we're talking about he's just going to go out and do really well. 30 fast laps, and we'll give him 60 fast laps. I mean, it's 75.5 points. And then let's say he does that, but then falls off to 6 at 63. How far can he fall? 12th? That's too far. 10th. Can he go lead 60 laps and have 30 fast laps? He would still be given at that point grace period all the way to 10th. Like I said, I'll probably run him in 2 lineups just in case that scenario happens. I don't think it's very realistic, though. So, be mostly a fade on that. I'm sure that's probably where he's probably going to be sub 5%, definitely sub 10%. Next in line here, Austin Dillon at $6,600 starting in 25th. It is fascinating because Richmond races similar, not a lot alike, but similar to Phoenix. Banking similar, speeds are similar, tire wear is similar. All of it's, if I had to pick a track that was the closest to Phoenix, it's Richmond. And Austin Dillon is almost lights out at Richmond, and he just struggles here. 20.6 average finish, 3 times in the top 20, nothing in the top 10 for the last 5 races. Out of his 24 total starts, only 2 top 10s. Now, well over half the time he's finishing in the top 20. With an 18.6. Even starting in 25th at that price, if we look at his speeds, there's nothing special or awful about his speeds. They're about average. So, if we're looking at the 18.6 total average, not even the 20.4, starting in 25th, it's just not enough. There's not enough wiggle room here. Probably not going to, look at his average fast laps. He doesn't average any fast laps or laps led here. So giving him the token one's being nice. It's 36.7. And that's finishing in 16th. That's being generous. And I just don't understand why the correlation between the two tracks does not transfer over for Austin Dillon. I don't know. Maybe it's something in turns 3 and 4. Turns 3 and 4 are tricky. Anthony Alfredo, $6,500. We don't have any recent information on Anthony. The thing is with Anthony is he probably has more sim, like full Chevy sim. That's the full motion rig. Not just like the little iRacing setups that you see Anthony do on his Twitch and YouTubes and stuff like that. He is the sim driver for Hendrick Motorsports. So he shakes down all of the setups for all these races. And he said the track that he has the most sim work on is Phoenix because of the championship race, because Kyle Larson won here last year. He's got more laps probably than anybody in sim for this place, starting in 31st. Now, does any of that make a hell of a difference? I don't know. He's racing the 48. I mean, it's a pretty good car. Now, the bad thing is if Anthony goes out here and gets a top 15 or top 10. Now, I mean, this is going to be the best quality car that Anthony Alfredo will have ever driven in his NASCAR career. Plain and simple. This is a huge opportunity for this kid. Especially after missing the Daytona 500 for something that Beard Motorsports screwed up on. We'll give him the token 1 and 1. I don't think it happens, but we'll give him the token 1 and 1. And you go out and you go get us a top 15. That puts him at 44.7 points. I think the optimal line at 6,500 is probably going to be close to 50, give or take a point or two. So can he go and shake out a 13th or a 12th? Can he get a top 12? I mean, it is the 48. It is Hendrick Motorsports. It is one of the big boys with a great car, great crew, great all the stuff. He's got more sim work than anybody. I think there's realistically opportunities here that I'll be more than happy to take shots on. And I think people are going to be like, the 48 hasn't been that good this year. Anthony's a sub driver. I mean, he still has something like 50 starts in the Cup Series in this next gen car. He was just always with scrub teams. This is his best opportunity. He doesn't have to go out and win the thing. He doesn't have to go out and lead laps. Keep it in line. Keep it on the track. Go get a good finish. I mean, the 48 car needs a good finish. And that's what he's going to do. I think he potentially Probably realistic best case scenario is Anthony gets 15th, 44.7. At 6,500, maybe the optimal line does drop a little. Could also be higher. I'm going to have some ownership there. Ty Gibbs starting in 14th. I don't understand Ty Gibbs at all. I've said that now for weeks. His speeds are good. Then they're not good. I think he burned his tires off. He went too fast at the beginning. Starting in 14th, I think he's just starting too far up. I think Family Man said earlier this is a great sneaky spot. He's going to need to get to 50 points starting in 15th. He has finished in the top 5 once. So we'll see what that does. A third place gets him to 55 points if he has 3 fast laps in the token lap led. But a third place gets him to 53. Anything worse than 9th, he's out. He's in the top 15 in points, but he's out. His average finish is 23.7. Maybe you take a shot or 2, but I probably wouldn't go any more than that. I'm out on Ty Gibbs. If somebody wants to be extra sneaky and play a bunch of him, good luck, I guess. I don't know. There's nothing in the practice speeds. There's nothing in he was 6th and 8th. That's about the only high point, is if we only look at the 10 lap and single lap, does it work? Well, that's great. He was fast to here, and then he's average. He's starting in 14th. One time he's finished in the top 5. The rest of the time he's finished outside the top 20. I'm out. I have no interest in Ty Gibbs. Starting too far up. I'd rather take Eric Jones for $200 or $100 less money, starting in 32nd, with a better average finish. And not bad practice speeds, 13th and 14th. He's missed on qualifying. Now, I still think there's an issue with legacy. Didn't he race for $1 million here? Yes. That was not here. That was the $1 million was the last race at the TNT playoff. So whatever TNT's last race was, that's where Ty Gibbs won the $1 million, because he was going up against Ty Dillon. It was the Ty and Ty race off last year. Was it at Michigan, I think? But no, it was not for here. Now Ty Gibbs won the Xfinity Championship 2 years ago. And then sadly his dad passed away that night. God, what an emotional roller coaster. I get it. The poor kid has, there are benefits to having a silver spoon in your mouth. At Indy. That's where he raced Ty Gibbs for the $1 million. Yep. It did not help 2 weeks ago when the old crew guy for Gibbs went out and said that Ty Gibbs was given everything, didn't have any talent. I just think he was mad and said that, but whatever. Ty Gibbs just hasn't shown me a whole lot. There are moments where it's like, oh, okay, maybe Ty Gibbs is going to get this, and then he blows it. I don't understand it. I don't know if it's team. I don't know. Same thing with Legacy Motor Club. There are moments and times where I'm like, ooh, Legacy Motor Club has turned the corner. We're headed in the right direction. And then they just suck. I don't get it. Eric Jones is a decent... is Eric Jones a Kyle Larson, Brian Blaney, any of those? No. But Eric Jones should be consistently finishing in the top 20. And every once in a while getting himself a top 10. He's not this... he's averaging 20s, 25, 30 place finishes week after week. I thought Legacy was heading in the right direction, and his practice speeds were okay. And I know we've had some wonky tracks the last 3 weeks, so maybe Legacy does have some speed. But I mean, his practice speeds were, okay. But starting in 32nd, I'll take some shots with him. I mean, I'll probably be in that 15% ish range because there's a ton of room at $6,300. Starting in 32nd, go get me a 14th place finish. We'll give him the token 1 fast lap and lap led, which probably won't happen, but I mean, we're only talking a point. Go get a 13th place finish or better. That's where his practice was. That puts him probably in or close to the optimal. So yeah, I'll take some shots on him. I'll probably have, this will be one of the 8-ish drivers that will rotate in and out of running 2 of the top guys. Because $6,300 allows me to do that. Daniel Suarez, though, he was super fast early and then just blew the tires off of it. And starting in 4th, I mean, Spire looks to be really good. Daniel is he's more patient than Carson Hocevar. I think Carson Hocevar is a better race car driver than Daniel Suarez. Daniel's more patient. I just don't like the 4th place starting spot. He doesn't have a top 5 here ever. So it means he's going to probably finish outside the top 5 again. And I don't think he or Spire go and beat Kyle Larson, Christopher Bell, Joey Logano, Ryan Blaney, or even a Denny Hamlin at this track. So I'm fading off of Daniel. I'm glad they're doing well, but I mean, he blew his stuff off his car. He was fast early. And that was a tendency last year for Spire. They would come out of the gate, blow the socks off of 1 lap and 10 lap speeds. They'd pump their air pressures up. They'd qualify really well. And then they would just fade into the mid 15, 20, 25 range all year last year. So starting in 4th, I don't have to put it on the chart. He's not going to finish any better than 10th. He's not going to finish. If he finishes top 5, I'll eat crow. I'll eat my humble pie. I mean, if he falls to 10th, he's outside the top 15 in points or optimal points. So, I mean, for him to do anything, he would need to get 2nd, 5, 10. I mean, he average fast laps of 1, average laps led of none. 48.75. I don't have any interest. Sorry. I'm not going to spend any more time on that. Let's go on to the next one. Michael McDowell, 6,100, starting in 16th. The average finished of 16th. His practice was 10th to 17th. He finished in 8th. Never finished in the top 5, only 3 times in the top 10. 6 out of 30, he's finished in top 20. Now, a lot of that was with BK Motorsports and really crappy teams, so I get it. But Michael McDowell does really well at super speedways and road courses. The short to intermediate, he's not that good at. Every once in a while, he'll come up with something and have a good day. I mean, he's better than average on his practice. He's starting 16th. I mean, I think there's maybe a 10th to 12th place finish here. So we'll just put 10th. So he mix it up to a top 10. And we'll give him the average that he's got, which is 4. And we'll give him the token 1. 42.05. So if you think the optimal line is still at 50 or slightly under, he's going to miss it a little bit. If he doesn't have the 4 fast laps and he has the token 1, and he finishes pretty much where he starts, let's say he falls 1 spot to 17th, 25.7. Not going to cut it. Even if he finishes where he starts at 27.7, he would need to get to at least probably 13th to be on the right side of the top 15. And that's not even getting really close to the optimal. And I just don't know if he's got the capability of being there. SVG, I mean, as well as SVG has started, yes, there is skill to driving a car at Daytona and Atlanta. But he was fortunate enough not to wreck it too bad, and he was able to come back. But because he wrecked twice at Atlanta and ended up, I think, with a top 10 finish. I think he finished 6th. But he's like 6th in points right now. Really good. But he was 31st and 30th, starting in 18th. I think, honestly, if Shane gets to a top 15, he's going to be like, heck yeah, hallelujah. Let's move on to the next one. And if he can just 15th place finish average from here until the next road course, he's going to be ecstatic. If he does that all the way to road courses and continues to do what he did last year at road courses, he'll make the chase. But starting in 18th, he's going to need, well, let's see, we'll have to give him the 1 and 1. Not going to finish in first. I mean, I guess anything's possible, but very, very doubtful. 13th gets him into the top 15. To get to the 45 points, 9th or better. 9th or better. I'm not sure outside of a super speedway oval that he's ever finished in the top 10 at an oval. I'll be fading off of SVG. All right, to my favorite sneaky pick or my favorite value pick of the week, Noah Gragson. And here's why I like the Noah Gragson pick so much. $5,900. And everybody don't share this. This is one of my favorite calls. Noah Gragson, $5,900. And here's why I like it. Starting in 35th. Everybody's like, ooh, place differential. Oh, but it's Noah. Noah's not that good. I wonder what his practice speeds were. Oh, 36th on single lap? Oh, the 10 lap was 28th? Oh, man, Noah's going to be Noah. It's going to suck. Oh, he's got an average finish of 19.3 at Phoenix. Oh, okay. Oh, he's got an average running position of 18. Okay, that's not bad. He has finished in the top 20 twice here out of 5 starts. Okay, not bad. The thing is, if you don't watch my channel or subscribe to a way of getting the data, or actually just going through the NASCAR site and looking really deeply at the data and actually seeing it for yourself, you'd miss a very obvious point. Remember, Noah Gragson's in yellow. Starts off slow. Not that great. Oh, I'm going to be faster than Austin Cindric and Daniel Suarez, who were 2 of the fastest people. Oh, I'm going to continue to be fast. I'm going to be faster than the average. All the way from lap 10 to lap 24. And I'm starting 35th. Well, at $5,900, if the optimal line is 45, and I've got an average, let's say of 20.5, but an average at Phoenix of 19.3 and an average running position of 17.9. So we'll go to 18th or 17th. With the token 1 and 1. Guess where it puts him? 44.7 points. optimal for $5,900 is probably 45. But most people very quickly are going to look at 35th and be like, oh, but it's Noah. Noah sucks. His practice speeds are awful. I'd skip it. Noah's going to be 3% owned. He's starting 35th. And all he's had to do is go get his average. 17th. And he makes optimal. This is my sneaky pick. This is my value pick. This is my call for the week. If it fails, I'll eat crow next week. But that's my pick of the week. Noah Gragson, starting 35th. It's not that sneaky because he's starting 35th. But if anybody's done a glance research, they're going to look at it and look at his practice speeds and not look at the big picture of the practice speeds and say, oh yeah, it's just Noah. He's not that good. It's going to be perfectly fine. Calling the shot. He's going to get at least top 20. He's going to make very close to the optimal. All right, Zane Smith, 5,800. We already talked about it. He's not starting 24th, but we'll have to start 24th for DraftKings. He's going to be 2 laps down before we even get to lap 4. And then from there, he's just going to have to get extremely lucky just to get back on the lead lap, much less make it past 24th. We don't even look at any of the speeds because it's not going to matter. How much Noah in a 20 max? I will probably be close to 30%. I'll be way overweight. Put it that way. Am I going to be 40%? I'm not sure I'm going to be 40% on anybody. I could easily see me having as much Noah as I have Blaney, Byron, Bell, Larson. Yeah, he'll be right there in that ownership range for me. And please don't go and run him and then call and then send me a nasty email going, he wrecked on lap 2. You cost me 40% of my lineups. I just that is very possible, but that's why I like these stats, and I know that people are going to be like, "Oh, it's Noah. He's going to finish 31st because that's what Noah does." But he does it in Phoenix. He's actually decent in Phoenix, even in the Cup car. Yeah, I mean, we look at his average. We know Zane Smith is going to suck, but Noah kicks the crap out of Zane at a 26.5. He kicks the crap out of Todd Gillen. Not kicks it, but I mean, it's an 18-21 for Todd Gillen. I mean, he is probably the best front row driver on average at Phoenix. You know, people are going to probably fade off of Noah, and they'll just jump to Todd starting in 30th because they think Todd may actually do better. No, Todd's not bad. He's got a 21.2. His practice speeds were okay. Yeah, but he fired off faster. And he actually stayed pretty fast for most of practice. But 30th to 20th there's a much bigger difference for him. 30th to 20th. I mean, it's still probably going to be a decent day. But it's 34.5 compared to the 44 for Noah. For $200 more. You know, Todd's going to need to get to 14th, 15th, which I think is also potentially doable. So where I might run 30 to 40% of Noah, I probably will double down on Joanne's call for Todd Gillen and run Todd probably 20%. So, yeah, that's where I am. I'm probably going to be pretty heavy on front row other than Zane, because Zane's going to get caught cheating. That is caught with his hand in the cookie jar. AJ Allmendinger, 5,500. AJ's had more cool suits fail than any other driver I've ever seen in my life. And I swear to God, I hope he doesn't bring one to the track tomorrow because it's going to be 87 degrees. Now, I know dry heat feels different than humidity heat, but still 87 degrees is hot. And in that car, it's going to be well into the 110, 120 range. And if his cool suit fails again, he'll just stop the car. He's starting in 23rd. His average finish is 30.7. I mean, of his total career, it's 18.7, but his practice speeds were not great. I don't think he finishes any better than 23rd. I'll put it on the chart. I'm not going to. We are plenty of time into this. About 2 hours and 15 minutes. Yeah, we're getting towards the end of this. It's 12:30, which is actually 1:30. I got to go to bed. $5,400 for Ricky Stenhouse Jr. starting at 21st. Average finish at 23rd. I mean, for Ricky, is at best average in practice. 21st. He would have to get a 10th, 11th, 12th. Well, hold on, we got to fix that. 1. Yeah, I mean, he's going to have to finish at 11th or better, and he averages 20.3 or 23.0. Austin Hill starting in 27th. We don't have much of a history on here. I would much rather take Anthony Alfredo in the 48 over Austin Hill starting in 27th, in the 33. Practice speeds actually were not bad for Austin Hill. I just have a feeling he's going to burn the living crud out of those tires real fast, and he'll end up a couple laps down before this whole thing's said and done. I don't think he finishes in the top 20. That could come back to bite me. But he needs to finish top 15 probably to make it. Possible. I'd put it at maybe a 15% chance that he makes it there. It won't be an absolute fade. I'll run him in 1 to 3 lineups. John Hunter Nemechek. So Eric Jones actually has a decent practice session, doesn't qualify well. John Hunter Nemechek has a lousy practice session and qualifies decent. The thing is, I like Legacy Motor Club. I like the drivers at Legacy Motor Club. I like Eric Jones and I like John Hunter. I like Jimmy Johnson as an owner. I'm like, there's a lot of things to like about it. It used to be Richard Petty Motorsports. There's lots to like about this team. But God, they cannot figure it out. But John Hunter starting 15th, and his practice speeds were awful. He has an average finish here of 25th. For him to get the 40 points, he's going to need to squeak out a 8th place finish, maybe? 8th, probably. No, actually 10th. Can John Hunter get a 10th place finish? They ever finished in the top 10? He's finished once in the top 20 here with an average finish of 25. I don't like it. I don't trust it. If there's something I need to differentiate in, I might pull a John Hunter Nemechek. I'd pull that before I pulled a Riley Herbst. Let's put it that way. Cole Custer starting in 36. Practice speeds were awful. The guy won this race 2 years ago, year and a half ago, to win the Xfinity Championship. It's kind of like Ty Gibbs. It's like, what are we doing here? Now, I know he's still in Haas equipment. He's a single Haas team. Practice speeds were not great, but he's starting in 36. $5,100. We just went through this with Cole Custer, with Noah. 28.5. 8 total starts, 21.3. I mean, does 36 to 20th get him there? I'd be willing to potentially take some shots if it does. It does. That's with 3 fast laps. Take those away. Give him 1. Puts him at 39.7. It's a maybe. I'll take some shots on Cole Custer. You like John Hunter Nemechek? Yeah, I like him as a driver. I think he's really good. I did not like John Hunter the first go around in the Cup Series. I like him now. I think going back to the Truck Series and the Xfinity Series humbled him, and he seems to be a much better driver. 2311 needs to get their head out of their backside and figure out what's going on with that team. Because I like all the pieces to the team. So yeah, I'll take some shots on Cole Custer. I think he doesn't probably get as much ownership as I think Noah probably gets a little bit more ownership, and I still think both of them are in single digits. So I'll probably run Cole Custer maybe 10-15%. Yeah, I mean, the thing is, Cole Custer's lap times don't ever get into the Austin Cindric range where Noah's did. That's where I differentiate a little bit. So go get a 20th. Okay. Puts him close to the optimal. Ty Dillon, $55,000. Starting in 33rd. He was 30th and 37th, 26.3 average finish. Speeds were all over the place. I have no interest. I mean, I might run him in 1 or 2 lineups. Riley Herbst starting in 22nd. Oh my God, please help us. Its practice speeds were actually better than what he was. I just don't have any interest in this kid. Can we just stop the experiment now and put Corey Heim in this seat? I just don't like Riley Herbst. I think he's a little punk. Cody Ware starting in 34th. Now, I will say, as much as I like to dunk on Cody Ware and Ware Racing, I will actually give them credit because a lot of times I'll dunk on them for being like, yeah, literally went out and ran 5 laps of practice. You qualified 37th and you ran 37th for the whole race. Why don't you go out and practice when practice is available? They actually ran 29 laps of practice. I think that might be the most amount of practice laps I've seen Rick Ware Racing run in practice in probably the last 2 years. And guess what? Usually Cody Ware's practice speeds are up here. They're usually all like here. He was actually at the average or better than average through the first 14 laps. As much as I like to dunk on Cody Ware, and as much as I don't think he's going to have a great day, I have to give props to Rick Ware for actually showing up to practice and actually practicing a little bit. With that being said, I think he only gets to his average. He's starting 34th. There's not enough points there. But I at least wanted to give credit to actually, they went out and ran almost 30 laps of practice. I'll give him that. All right, let's wrap this up because it is realistically 1:41 in the morning. I think Denny Hamlin, Christopher Bell, Ryan Blaney, Kyle Larson are probably the highest owned drivers out there. My sneaky picks, I really, really like I said, don't tell anybody. I really like the Noah Gragson pick. I like the Eric Jones pick. And after looking at it, I don't mind the Cole Custer pick for going kind of heavy on those drivers as the value sleeper picks. Beyond that, I think you just mix and match. I think Joey's viable, even starting from the pole. I'll probably fade off of Tyler Reddick. I'm going to fade off of Josh Berry. I'll fade off of Carson Hocevar, Daniel Suarez, and Austin Cindric. And when I say fade off, I'm going to be less than 10% ownership on any of those one drivers. They'll be mix and matched pieces. I like the Buescher call. Brad starting in 37th. That's an easy pick. A lot of people are going to have that as a big ownership, though. Chase Elliott, the chase and chase kind of scare me a little bit. Bubba, I think I'm okay with. He's starting far enough back. Kyle Busch's potential. No, Gregson, I don't mind. Priest, I think, is starting too far up. Austin Dillon, I think he's going to finish where he starts. Todd Gillen, I don't mind the Todd Gillen call. We called that earlier. Zane Smith got the penalty. Nope, not interested. Ty Dillon, no, I don't like it. Connor Zillage, I think he's starting too far up. Ty Gibbs, I think he's starting too far up. McDowell, I do like the Alfredo call. John Hunter starting too far up. AJ, nope. Cody Ware, yeah, he got practices in, but I don't think he finishes any better than 30th, so not interested. So there's my quick breakdown on who I think will and won't do well. Good luck to everyone. Maybe we build one of those correct lineups for tomorrow's race or today's race. All right, sorry I kept everyone up so late, but next week I think we're back to normal at 9 o'clock. We head to Vegas. Oh man, the Xfinity Series might be a nighttime race there too. So what if it is a nighttime race? I'll be live after the Xfinity race like this week, but we don't lose another hour and sleep. So thanks for tuning in. We will see you guys next week. Appreciate it. Hit that like and subscribe button. Bye.
Gentlemen, start your engines. 40 cars coming to life. Can you still pace the field? Yep. Love it.
Get a good deep breath. Get ready to roll here. Only about one thing tonight, getting the W, so gotta be around the end to do that.
Get ready to roll tonight, boys. Go have some fun.
Don't get me any more fired up than I already am.
All the way to the checkered. You're fine. Nobody's got to run. Checker time, baby! Really proud of you, man. Drove your butt off tonight. We had the best car here, bud.
Yeah, boys. Way to rebound. Great job.
Great job, bud. Really good job. Appreciate you hanging in there with us all weekend.
What a weekend. Good job. Thank you.